All right, welcome Algebra 2 to a short video here. You got this packet on Friday, additional Algebra 2 Chapter 5 test review questions to know. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So that's other Chapter 5 test review that you got is great. It's golden, about 90%. The questions from the test are going to come from there. I also, especially with some factoring ones, wanted to give you this review as well. All right, so turning it to the first page, describe the end behavior of each function. Again, you got the 4 different choices there. So it's all about what is the leading coefficient doing. So the leading coefficient is positive. These are written in standard form. That means the highest exponent is first, and then it drops an exponent. All right, then it, descends exponent-wise. So the leading coefficient is positive. That's a positive 2. So if the leading coefficient is positive, it ends by going up. Then I look at the degree. The highest power is 2, so it's an even degree functions. Even degree functions have the same end behavior. All right, honestly, folks, if you have a cheat sheet, there's no reason we should miss these questions. All right, so we need to do a better job than we did on first quiz with these. Leading coefficient, clearly negative, so the graph ends by going down. The graph ends by going down if your leading coefficient is negative. Start with how the graph ends, because that's exactly what the leading coefficient tells you. Now, highest power is 3, so this is odd degree. Odd degree has opposite end behavior. Odd opposite. Think of the alliteration there, okay? Here we go in 22. Leading coefficient is negative, so it again ends. It ends by going down. Fourth power is even. Even degree means it has the same end behavior. So if it ends by going down to the left, it also goes down as well. Lastly, leading coefficient is positive, so it ends by going up. Odd degree function, because it's x to the third, and 3 is an odd number. So it has opposite end behavior. It ends by going up. Other way, it goes down. Those should be easy money, all right? If they're 2 points a pop, we should all go 8 for 8 on those. With the cheat sheet, folks, we should not be missing those. Okay, so these aren't as easy. This is the difference of 2 perfect cubes. Okay, again, when we had a to the third minus b to the third, the formula you'd see in any book is you take the cubed root of both, so a minus b, take the first term and you square it. Because you have no middle terms, you don't have an x squared or an x term, it has to be an opposite sign. So if it's a minus, it's got to be plus. Then you take the inner product, a times b, and then you square the second term. All right, so I take the cubed root of x to the third and 8. That is going to be x, same sign, minus 2. I take this first term x and I square it. If this is a negative, this has got to be a positive. Then I take the inner product, x times 2, or 2 times x, which is 2x. Then it doesn't matter if you think of it as a 2 or a negative 2. When you square either numbers, you get a positive 4. All right, here's 25. Take the cubed roots. Again, if I were to switch it, if it was a cubed plus b cubed, then I would have a plus b, and the only thing different, this would be a minus in between, all right? So I take the cubed root of x to the third, that's x, plus. I take the cubed root of 27. Again, the cubed root is what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives you 27. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. I take this first term and I square it. If that's a plus, this is a minus. The inner product, x times 3 or 3 times x, that's 3x. I take 3 and I square it. It has been factored. Don't set it equal to 0. It doesn't equal anything. All right, 26 and 27 would be good to talk about here. I take the cubed root of 64. That is 4. I take the cubed root of x to the third. That's x. Plus, the cubed root of 1 is 1. The square root of 1 is 1. The 10th root of 1 is 1. I take that first term. I square all of it. 4 squared is 16. X to the second power is x squared. This is a plus. This is a minus. The inner product is 4x times 1, or 4x. And then I take 1 and I square it. I take the cubed root of 8, which is 2. Take the cubed root of x to the third, which is x. Minus the third root of 125 is 5. I take 2x and I square it, 4x squared. That's a minus, that's a plus. The inner product, 2x times 5, that's 10x. I square 5 or negative 5, I get positive 25. So then 28, 29, you can practice those. I mean, that's basically everything we could see for these. All right? So you might have quite a few that just say factor, right? Here we have easy factoring. We have 3 terms, and we have a constant. If one of the terms is constant, you got 3 terms, and you think about easy factoring, the factoring you did in Algebra 1. What multiplies to 12 and adds to 8? 2 and 6, or 6 and 2. Instead of x plus 6, x plus 2, how do I get x to the 4th? It's got to be x squared times x squared to give me x to the 4th. It's been factored. Don't set it equal to 0. What? No, it's kind of a lighting issue there. Sorry. What multiplies to 30? And because it's negative, differs by 1. That is 6 and 5 first. 6 and 5 multiply to 30, and they have a difference of 1. Now, the middle term is negative, so the bigger factor, which always matches the middle term, has to be negative. X squared minus 6x squared plus 5. What multiplies to 48 and adds to a negative 14, so they're both a negative. 8 and 6, both negative. Now, 35, slightly different. 20x is not a constant, so you have to factor out the x that they all have in common. Take a single power of x away. Now I can factor this by actual easy factoring. What multiplies to 20 and adds to 9, positive 5, positive 4. Just remember to attach the x on the outside, okay? These all have an x, so to factor out the x, put it on the outside. X squared plus 4x minus 32. When you factor out the x, what multiplies to 32 and differs by 4? That would be 8 and 4. The middle term's positive, so the bigger factor, 8, is positive. Again, we should know how to do easy factoring. All right, that is from Algebra 1. Folks, anytime you have 4 terms, it's got to factor by grouping. All right, in this class. So group the first 2 together. What do they have in common? They have at least x to the 2nd, so I'm going to factor that out. And when I take away x to the 2nd from x to the 3rd, I'm left with x and that 3. And if I have 2x squared and I take away x to the 2nd, I'm left with 2. The middle sign is positive, so you got to bring down the positive. You are factoring out. They don't have an x in common, but they're multiples of 7, both those terms. 21x divided by 7 is 3x. Plus 14 divided by 7 is 2. Look at that. 3x plus 2, 3x plus 2. We've done that correctly. They go together in one parenthesis. And the x squared plus 7 goes together in the other parenthesis. All right. 38. I'm telling you that x equals negative 2, x equals 0, and x equals 3. So if I move that over, I would have x plus 2 in a parenthesis. If I move this over, I would have x minus 3 in a parenthesis. Again, if I had this set equal to 0, it would be x minus 3 equals 0. That's how I get x equals 3. It would be x plus 2 equals 0. That's how I get x equals negative 2. And if I move 0 over with x, I'm still left with x. So that's why the x is on the outside. What I did here is FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. And then I have the x on the outside, and I distribute the x everywhere. That's how I get x to the 3rd. Minus x squared minus 6x. Again, you're giving me an equation. All right, a function there. So if x equals 1 and x equals negative 2i, then x also equals positive 2i. Every time we've gotten an answer of I, it's always been plus or minus 2i, plus or minus 3i, plus or minus I root 6, plus or minus I root 3. It's always been plus or minus. So if I give you a negative 2i, then the conjugate 2i is also an answer. So if I move the 1 over, it's got to be x minus 1 in a parenthesis. But let's take a look here. X times x will give you x squared equals negative 2 times 2 gives you negative 4. If I have x squared equals negative 4, that's how I get plus or minus 2i as an answer. That means if I move the negative 4 over, x squared plus 4 would have been set equal to 0. X squared plus 4 is my factor. Then I FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. All right, I just switched the order there, so I have it written in perfect standard form. 41 through 42 say, given a polynomial function and one of its factors, find the remaining factor. So I'm telling you to take this and divide it by that factor. So if I tell you that 12 is a factor of 156, that means when you divide 156 by 12, you better get an answer with no remainder. All right, so I'm going to take x minus 1, set it equal to 0. I'm telling you that x equals 1 is a solution. 1 goes in the cubby. 1x to the third, 0x squared, negative 7x, positive 6. Remember, I bring down this first term because I'm doing 1x to the third divided by 1x. 1 divided by 1 is 1. My two operations are I multiply 1 times 1, and then I add the columns. 1 times 1, then I add the columns. 1 times negative 6, then I add the columns. I get 0 as a remainder. That's good. So I started with x to the third. I divided by a power of x. So this is going to be x squared plus 1x minus 6. How does that factor? Well, it multiplies to 6 and differs by 1. 3 and 2. The middle term is positive. So 3 is positive, 2 is negative. All right. So on this next one, I take those 4 terms. I divide by x plus 4. X plus 4 equals 0. I'm checking to see if negative 4 is the solution. I know it is, but when I divide by that, I'll be left with something I can factor. So negative 4 goes in the cubby because, again, I take the factor. I set it equal to 0. The solution goes in the cubby. Bring down the 1 for 1x to the third. Again, this is 8x squared, 19x, 12. Bring down the 1. Negative 4 times 1 is a negative 4. Add them up. Negative 4 times 4 is a negative 16. Add them up. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Add them up. 0 as my remainder. That's good. That was x to the third. I divided by a power of x. So this is x squared plus 4x plus 3. Well, it multiplies 3 and adds to 4. 3 and 1. Again, give me the other two factors. This is the answer. This is the answer. Okay, then I have done a bunch of solve by factoring ones. Okay, so on 43, they all have an x in common. Factor out the x. Then I ask myself, well, it multiplies to 30. Differs by 7. 10 and 3 multiply to 30, and they have a difference of 7. Middle term's negative, so 10 is negative, and 3 is positive. Again, easy factoring. Please take your time there. Cover-up method. X equals 0. X minus 10 is 0. And x plus 3 is 0. Solve those easy equations to get those 3 solutions. So 44 is just like it there. Factor out the x. What multiplies to 63 differs by 2. 9 and 7 do that. The middle term's positive. So the bigger factor, 9 is positive, 7's negative. Cover-up method, x equals 0. X plus 9 equals 0. X minus 7 equals 0. And that's how you get my 3 solutions there. 45, 46, very similar. We do easy factoring from the get-go. Why can we do that? Because negative 20 is a constant, so I don't need to factor out an x. They don't all have an x in common. Instead, I say, what multiplies to 20 and differs by 1. 5 and 4, the middle term is negative, so 5, the bigger factor, is negative. 4 is positive. I set x squared minus 5 equal to 0. Again, it has to be x squared times x squared. That's how I get x to the 4th. X squared minus 5 is 0, so x squared equals 5. X squared plus 4 is equal to 0, so x squared equals negative 4. I take the square root of 5. Don't forget about plus or minus. Take the square root of a negative 4. Immediately take I out. I root 4, which is 2i. The square root of 4 is 2. Don't forget about plus or minus. 46, same deal. What multiplies to 30 adds to a negative 11. Negative 6, negative 5. They're both negative because they multiply to a positive and add to a negative. X squared minus 6 equals 0. X squared minus 5 is 0. Take the square root, plus or minus root 6, plus or minus root 5. 47, 48 are very similar, so I'm going to do 48 with you. So this is still like 45 and 46. The middle term is 0. So what multiplies to 49 differs by 0. It'll be 7 and 7 because you have a negative constant. One of them's negative, one of them's positive. So difference of 2 perfect squares. X squared minus 7 is 0. X squared plus 7 is 0. All right. Add 7 to both sides here. Subtract 7 from both sides. Take the square root. You got plus or minus root 7. plus or minus the square root of negative 7. Take the I out immediately when you take the square root of a negative. Plus or minus I root 7. Last two questions here. Factoring by grouping. 4 terms means you're going to factor by grouping. These can be on the harder side. These two have an x squared in common. Factor out the x squared. 2x to the third. If I take an x squared away, I'll be left with 2x minus x squared divided by x squared is 1, not 0. Bring down the negative sign in the middle. These two terms are multiples of 9. So again, I'm dividing by negative 9. Negative 18x divided by negative 9 is 2x. 9 divided by negative 9 is a negative 1. All right. 2x minus 1s, you see twice. Go right there. X squared minus 9 goes right there. Cover-up method. X squared minus 9 is 0. 2x minus 1 is 0. Add 9 to both sides. Take the square root. Plus or minus 3. No I. You're not taking the square root of a negative. Add 1 to both sides here. You get x is a half. All right. Take a look at 50. These two terms have an x squared in common. X to the third divided by x squared is x. Plus 4x squared divided by x squared is 4. That's a plus in the middle. Bring down a plus. 4x and 16. Divide both of those by 4. 4x divided by 4 is x. Plus 16 divided by 4 is 4. Equals 0. You got x squared plus 4 twice. I'm sorry, x plus 4 twice. And the x squared plus 4 goes in the other parenthesis. Set x squared plus 4 equal to 0. Subtract 4 from both sides. Take the square root. We take the square root of a negative. Take I out. Square root of 4 is 2. That's how you get plus or minus 2i. Subtract 4 from both sides. You get x is negative 4. So from that larger Algebra 2, Chapter 5 test review and this, that is anything and everything I could ask you on the test, which is going to start on Thursday. What is that? It's 25th, and it's going to finish on Friday the 26th, folks. We need to be ready for this, all right? I'm giving you multiple reviews and videos well in advance. Let's do it, folks. Pretty manageable test, all right, if we prep for it. This is Yak Math Videos, signing out.